Hello, BookTube. Well, it's a bleak and barren Monday. It's a federal holiday here in the United States, so there's no mail for Steve, no books. Uh, and I have determined that I will attack such a day instead of just lying supine and waiting for it to roll all over me by making a bunch of videos. And I thought one of the ones I would do would be a book tag, because those always cheer me up. I apologize for the extra disheveled appearance today, but last night's presidential debate literally made me sick. I'm trying to recover, but I think it's going to take a long time to recover from what I saw and heard. So I thought I would try anyway with the autumn book tag. Now, I've been waiting patiently for someone to tag me. As far as I know, no one has, and it doesn't look like anyone's going to. So I thought I'd do it myself before autumn is gone. It was created by Amy Jane Smith, and the most recent, most adorable iteration that I saw was done by Jeremy at Jer Sings and Reads, in which he sang the tag from his new padded cell at Arkham Asylum. uh, and I'm glad that he's incorporating more musical theater into his tags, and I'm also glad he's finally getting the help he needs. And it's just a series of autumn related questions, starting with number one: are there any books you plan on reading over the autumn season? Yes, I do. I plan on reading several hundred books over the autumn season, but I jotted down some that are of special interest to me now, even though I feel like I'm not going to live through the autumn season. One of them is Swing Time by Zadie Smith. I'm ashamed to admit I haven't read it yet, but it's right there. It's right on my launch pad. Then there's something by Joan Maloof called Nature's Temples, which is a book about old growth forests. I have been in many old growth forests, and for those of you who have not, I really can't describe the difference between an old growth forest, the feeling of walking around in an old growth forest versus a new growth forest. It's unmistakable, but it's hard to describe. Actually, Tolkien in The Lord of the Rings, which I'm doing a read along, comes close a couple of times. A couple of times his characters encounter old growth forest, and they describe it as though the trees were talking to themselves. And that's kind of the feeling that you very much feel that you are inside a living biomass, which is unsettling. Also, The Marches by Rory Stewart. I'll read anything by him, and he has a new book on the stretch of land bordering England and Scotland, and I haven't got to it yet. I've had a copy for weeks. And then Bear by Lynn Kelling. It's an Amazon book. It's a self-published gay novel that was recommended to me. That's pretty much all it takes, so I'll give it a try. And Iron Dawn by Richard Snow, which is about the pardon me, book two. Iron Dawn is about the Monitor and the Merrimack, the beginning of armor-plated naval warfare during the American Civil War. I've read many books on the Monitor and the Merrimack, but I'm always a sucker for one more. And the last one, not the last one I'll read, but the last one on this list here is by Peter Tomasi. It's the graphic novel of the last days of Superman. The New 52 iteration of Superman in DC Comics dies in this storyline. He sickens and dies. His body has taken one too many critical blow, and he becomes terminally ill, and the company's killing him off in favor of an alternate version of Superman, an earlier alternate version of Superman, for those of you who don't follow DC Comics. And they decide, rather than get rid of him, in some more abrupt or convenient way, that they would have him know that he was dying. And even though it's an age-old gimmick, I thought that Tomasi did it really well. I read a couple of issues, realized the thing was going well, and decided not to read any of the others so that I could read them all for the first time in the graphic novel. So I'll be doing that. Let's see here. Question number 2. September brings back school memories. What book did you most enjoy studying? What was your favorite or least favorite studies at school? Uh, it does bring back school memories, September, but none of my school memories along these lines are positive, uh, because I hated the experience of going to class. I hated the experience of being in class with other people. It always felt like I was being leg chained to the dumbest person in the room, because any single mook anywhere in the room could raise their hand and say, I don't understand. And the whole thing has to rumble to a stop while everything is made explicable to that person. I just I realize that's what that's what education actually is. But nevertheless, it drove me nuts. After a while, I think after one semester, I would routinely go up to teachers on the first day of class and say, do you offer independent studies? Is there any way that I can opt out of the structure of this class in favor of anything you say? A barrage of papers, a barrage of in-depth studies. I'll be happy to do graduate study work for you. I'll be happy to make bibliographies for you. Uh, Anything you want, so that I don't have to sit here and do the daily reading and raise hands and whatnot. And a surprising number of teachers agreed to let me do that. So I managed to get out of it a lot of what I hated. But classes like that, first day of classes, everybody all sitting together and getting to know each other, holds no good memories for Steve. And as far as worst classes go, anything that was, science or math related just was a nightmare. There were a few that I had to take, and they were a nightmare. I would say that it was like battering my head against a foreign language, but every time I've battered my head against a foreign language, it has quickly made sense to me, whereas math and science don't, no matter how I did it. So, question number 3. October means Halloween. Do you enjoy scary books or films, and do you have favorites of each? And again, I'm not trying to be a pest, but again, I'm on a slightly different wavelength here. I love horror novels and short stories, like, for instance, something I mentioned on this channel before, Sand Kings by George R. R. Martin. I think is a masterfully constructed horror story. And then I've read many others. But in terms of the gist of the question, which I think is meant to ask me which ones scared me, they don't scare me. And if that's true of literature, it's even more true of movies. I don't know how many movie fans in my life I have annoyed by the fact that I simply don't get frightened at movies. It just doesn't happen. I don't ever forget that I'm watching a movie, and that 2 feet away from the actors that I'm looking at, there's a key grip and a cameraman and all that sort of stuff. That none of this stuff is really happening. And I know that's, again, totally antithetical to the spirit of the enterprise. So I guess the answer is none. But they aren't all going to be this bleak, I promise. Question number 4. With November, it's time for bonfire nights and fireworks. What's the most exciting book that you've read recently that really gripped you? Exciting, yes. Gripping, yes. But both because I was infuriated. And that was John Farrell has an upcoming biography of Richard Nixon. John Farrell wrote a great book called Tip O'Neill and the Democratic Century, a fantastic life of O'Neill, and a fantastic study of American politics at the congressional level. But this Nixon book, I just finished it, and it infuriated me on many different levels for many different reasons. So I guess that counts, right? As exciting book that really kept you gripped. Let's see here. Question. I'll talk more about the Nixon book when it comes to market. Don't you worry. Question number 5. What book is your favorite cozy, comfy read? The first thing that came to mind is Anthony Trollope, because I'm currently reading The Claverlings by Anthony Trollope, and Trollope is a very comfortable writer. He's so much fun to read. But also The Wind in the Willows, a children's classic that I love, and that it has some cozy memories for me. But I think as far as comfort book goes, probably the most steady example for me would be something I've mentioned on this channel before, The Book of Merlin by T.H. White, the author of The Once and Future King, in which a very old King Arthur goes underground to a den, a literal cozy den, an animal's den, and has a debate, a novella-long debate with Merlin and a bunch of animals on the worth of mankind as a species on Earth. And I, there's no character development, there's no action. It's just a long meditation, but I love it. It's comfort food for me reading wise. Uh, uh, Question number 6: curled up with a good book, what is your favorite hot drink of choice? I don't have. Uh, this is turning out to be a very contrary book tag, but I don't have a hot drink of choice. First of all, I don't drink or eat or do anything else to distract me when I'm reading. When I'm reading, I'm reading, and I'm not doing anything else. But even so, uh, hot drinks confuse me, and I tend not to have them. I tend to drink only water and wine and orange juice, and unfortunately, in all three cases, uh, I tend to show a bit of my origins. I was socialized by a species that bolts its food instead of savoring its food. So I tend to gulp all three of those. That's not good. It's not good for savoring. It's not good for this question. Uh, and then question number 7. We've got all the way to the end. I'm sorry again for the sound effects. I know I must look terrible. Give me 2 different presidential candidates, and I'll be in tip-top shape. Uh, Question number 7. Any plans you're looking forward to over the next few months? Yes, there are. I'm hoping that I will get a visit from the little old lady who reviews the same novel every week for the Silver Spring Scold. It's always nice when she comes to visit and worries about how cold it is, or whether or not the food is safe to eat, or is this chair really comfortable, or I don't know. I'm also looking forward to reading, of course, since it's the bulk of what I do. I'm hoping, in the upcoming months to read north of 300 books. And the number one thing, of course, is NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing November month that comes, starts on November the 1st. I will be joining NaNoWriMo. I will be having a time of my life, I hope. It's the thing I'm looking forward to the most for November, certainly. And that's it. That is the autumn book tag. Done by only a fraction of Steve, but still. And all that's left is for me to tag people, and I do have some tag people. I want to tag insert literary pun here. I want to tag the retired book nerd. Haul her out of retirement. I want to tag the Reading Roads and see what he has to say about this. And also, of course, Mega Man Chief Fan. I don't think he's done this tag, and I'd love to hear his answers. And that's it. I will see you soon, BookTube. Hopefully not quite so sick as I am now. Thank you.